I'm going to start with a polygon primitives torus. So go to the create menu, the main menu, create, polygon primitives, torus, option box, and let's use some specific settings for this, just to make finding the edges to cut easier. Let's go ahead and use a section radius of point, let's try point 3. Let's use axis divisions. This doesn't really matter. We'll just make that 16. And for this, just so we don't have too many edges we have to deal with and points to snap, let's use a height divisions of 8. Okay. So things we changed: section radius 0.3, axis divisions 16, and height divisions 8, and hit create. Okay, let's hit F to zoom in on our newly created torus. And we're about to start UV unwrapping, so let's go to the split view that we need. Go to panels, save layouts, and go to Persp UV texture editor. Okay, and here we see that we have the split screen that we need to work with. And in the end, we are going to see something that looks kind of like this, in that the full UVs cover pretty much 100% of the UV space. And this will ensure that whatever texture we throw onto it will follow the contours of the geometry. This is one of those special cases, unique cases, in which we actually want to have some of that distortion in order to have the textures flow with the geometry. So before we can begin unwrapping it properly, we need to reset its UVs. By resetting, I mean I'm just going to give it a top-down, a y-axis planar projection, because this is more or less already unwrapped, so there's nothing we can really do here. So just to give us a starting point, let's go to, be sure you're in the polygons menu set over here, and then we're going into the create UVs menu, planar mapping option box. Okay, looks like everything is already set up the way we want. So ultimately what we want is a bounding box for the fit projection to project from y-axis, and I usually keep on the keep image width height ratio here. That way it doesn't give me any additional distortion that I don't want. So once you have those three, how I have it, go ahead and click the project button. And as you can see, we have a top-down plane projection of our torus, and this is going to be our starting point. Let's make sure we're in edge mode before we begin making any changes. So I'm going to right click with my mouse button over the geometry and go to edge, the 12 o'clock position within the radial menu here. And the edges I'm going to select are going to be, there's going to be two edges that intersect. One is going to be the crosswise cut, which is the short way around. And what this ultimately does is it creates two ends for my tube shape. So if you were working with a long rope or a noodle or any other type of long tube-shaped object, you wouldn't need to do this, obviously, because it already has two ends. But since this kind of loops back on itself, just like the twirly shape that we did for extra credit on the unwrapping exercise, you would need to make this cut, otherwise it's not going to unfold properly. So that's the crosswise cut, the short way around. and then the lengthwise cut going the long way. And you could really choose any of these edge loops that go around, but I'm going to go ahead and choose this one because one of the rules you need to remember for choosing what edges are going to be your seams, or they should be somewhere where they're the least noticeable. So you want to choose something that is as hidden as possible. That's just good convention. Now that you have these two cuts, one going the short way, that's our crosswise cut, and one going the long way, the lengthwise cut. And again, this can be as long as it needs to be. So for example, if it's a rope or something else, it could be several hundreds of edges long. It doesn't matter. The length really does not matter because this technique will work for all of those. However, if the crosswise cut, if there's a lot of subdivisions going around that way, it could be a little more tedious because these are the points that we're going to have to eventually snap to the grid. And this is one of the reasons why I chose 8 subdivisions go around this way. But hopefully when the object was modeled, that there weren't too many subdivisions going around this way. But this way you can have as many subdivisions as you want, and it really doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and make our cuts. So I'm holding down Shift, right click, and cut UVs. Okay, once these are cut, I want to grab all the UVs, so I'm going to hold down right mouse button, go to UVs, marquee select everything, and then I'm going to click on Smooth UV Tool. Left click and drag on the unfold and drag to the right, and you can drag it all the way until it becomes almost like a rectangle. Now for longer or more curved tube-like surfaces, it's not going to unwrap as well, but the important thing is as long as you can easily see the 4 corners of the rectangle, then you can snap them to the 4 corners of the UV space. So I'm going to hit Q right now to quit out of my unfold tool. Always remember to do that, and also look up here every once in a while. If you have any of these tools enabled, then you probably won't be able to make your selections and do a lot of other things. So make a habit of always hitting Q whenever you're finished using a tool. And there I just quit out of it.